All right. Welcome, everybody. Hope you all are having a good evening, and thank you for once again joining us for a very special episode of The Yard. Uh, my name is Richard Bronson. I'm one of your hosts tonight. I thought it would be helpful if I were to reset our room, so to speak, whereby there are new people, coming in here, whereby me and my two hosts have a chance to sort of share an elevator pitch about their life and their backgrounds, who we are, and a little bit about what the yard is all about. So, first, my name is Richard Bronson, as I mentioned. Um, I am from New York, and I used to work on Wall Street. And at one point, I was actually a partner at that infamous Wolf of Wall Street firm that you may have seen memorialized in the movie by Martin Scorsese. I left there and I moved to Florida, where I started my own financial services firm, and I grew it into a very large company, and I became rich. But I was also very greedy. And along the way, I broke a bunch of laws. Uh, and I certainly dearly paid the price. I lost everything. I lost my friends. I lost family. I lost all of my possessions, of course. And most importantly, I lost my freedom. I ended up in federal prison for a few years. When I came out, I had less than nothing, but I sort of had discovered what I wanted to do with my life, and that was to help my brothers and sisters coming out of prison so that they, had some opportunities more than I felt. Um, the first thing I did, well, it wasn't the first thing I did. First thing I did was take a shower without wearing flip flops. That was the first thing I did. The second thing I did was I launched a company called 70 Million Jobs. 70 Million Jobs was and is the first national for profit employment platform for folks with records. Um, we, uh, we are a venture capital funded company that went through Y Combinator. And over the course of a couple of years, we helped thousands of people, deserving men and women, get jobs. So we're very proud of that. When the coronavirus hit, however, all of that changed. All of our people got fired. Our business went to zero. So either pack it in or move on to plan B. We chose plan B, and that was to do something I always dreamed about, and that is to build out the first social network for folks with records. And we did that about a month and a half ago, and it's called Commissary Club, commissary.club. And I certainly invite all of you to please check it out. There's no cost, but our goal is to bring people together. I am joined tonight, as I normally am, by my good friend, Seth Sundberg. Seth, could you please say hello?
What's up, everybody? It's great to see y'all on the yard. A little bit about me, just as we're resetting this thing too. So one of the things that's hard to tell from Zoom video, but I'm 7 feet tall, and either because of that or in light of that, I did play professional basketball. I played a couple years for the Lakers, and then played in Europe in about 10 different countries. Made some good money doing that, had a lot of fun doing that, and then retired from that, got into real estate. I ran a national mortgage company at a small investment firm, made more money doing that than I ever did even playing basketball, and just got more arrogant than I already was, and figured I'd take on the IRS, which is never a good idea. But I thought it was a good idea at the time. Took them on, and I lost bad. I spent 5 years in federal prison for tax fraud from 2009 to 2014, and learned a ton about just seeing the inner guts of the beast, and like we all have, and you know, and working on changing the way things are done, after that. And that's, and I'm the VP of operations and marketing with Commissary Club now, and super, super excited about, getting everybody together and being able to go to your bunkie and go, all right, how the hell we do this? There's a lot of good organizations and things out there that do cool things, but every time I got anything done, it was always through, and it still is, through people that I knew from, like, all right, let's get this done. So happy to see y'all.
Thank you, Seth. And last but certainly not least, my other good friend and work associate, Divine. Hey, Divine.
Peace, peace. Thanks for the intro, Richard. Great to be here. Glad you all are joining us. I'm Divine. I deal with business development at a Commissary Club. I'm best known for my my entrepreneurial journey of redemption. Tagline: from crack to rap to tech, and I love saying that. I was a substantial drug dealer. My mother was on crack cocaine, early '80s. Got addicted. 10 years old, I was thrust from the middle class to the projects and poverty, with no mother around, no parental guidance, no role models, no father. I turned to the streets, started hustling. I was always into music. I'm a hip hop rap recording artist as well. So that's apart from from crack to rap. I entered prison at 19 years old, 84 months under the draconian crack law, or left a 3-year-old son behind. While away, I honed my talents in the music industry, learned the business from A to Z, came home, started my own independent record label in New York City. And from there, although I wasn't that successful in music like I wanted to be, I never landed a major contract with a record label or anything like that. However, I started dealing a lot with recidivism, going in and out of prison. The street life was more attractive for me, and it paid the bills. And it's what I knew since I was 13 years old. So dealing with that, the last time I was incarcerated, I decided to change my life, became 100% satisfied, and I started studying entrepreneurship and really learning how to really build and become an entrepreneur, a bona fide entrepreneur. I came across an article about famed venture capitalist Ben Horowitz, and that brought me into tech industry. And then I met Richard, and here I am on Commissary Club.
Chilling on the yard.
Welcome to the yard.
All right, and we're glad that you found us. Joining us tonight is a very, very interesting guy that we've just met, that I'm very impressed with. His name is Tracey Syphax. Hey, Tracey, I'm sorry. Tracey Syphax. Hey, Tracey, how are you?
Hey, Rich. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for joining us. Back in 1990, Tracey was arrested for drug dealing. He was pardoned after a while by then New York, Jersey Governor Chris Christie, who later became President Trump's good buddy. But since he's been out, he has been really very, very active in criminal justice advocacy. He's built a company called From the Block to the Boardroom. Tracey is also a published author. In 2011, he became the first African-American individual to be named Entrepreneur of the Year by the Princeton Chamber of Commerce. And in 2014, President Obama named him a champion of change. We're going to get to what he's been up to since he's been out of prison. But first, we want to talk about when we were all in prison, and that's what the yard is all about. So once again, as we have done every week on the yard, I'm going to ask you to indulge me here. If everybody, please, could briefly just close their eyes, shut them up, and just take a deep breath and relax. And if you've been in prison, it's not going to be hard for you to sort of remember this. But if you've never been in prison, just imagine, if you will, you've been cooped up all day in a crowded cell with some other guy or woman that you don't particularly like, who smells. Or maybe you've been in a housing unit where there's a whole lot of other men or women, on double and triple bunk beds on top of each other. And everybody is deathly afraid these days of catching coronavirus, of course. And unfortunately, many of them have caught it, and many of them have given up their life, essentially serving life sentences for going away to prison. Imagine, however, the prison, it's not in lockdown. So, and you're not in solitary confinement because you got in trouble. So the guards yell, or there's an announcement, you're allowed to go out into the yard. You're allowed to go outside for maybe an hour, maybe two. It's a time, you can walk around and think your thoughts. It's a time to exercise maybe and hit the weight pile or throw around a ball. But for a lot of people, it's a time to hook up with their crew, with their friends, with the connections they've made, the people that they've hung out with. And inevitably, these group of people that they were there yesterday, they're going to be there tomorrow, but today is today. And it's a moment of some fresh air, and maybe the sun is out, and maybe for a moment you can just imagine that you're not in a cage, for a long time, but rather have some sense of freedom, and whereby you can connect with people who know you. And on the yard, typically you're having conversations. Sometimes you're talking about the stupidest things imaginable. And other times they couldn't be more important. There are times that you're laughing, and there are times maybe one of you got some really bad news and you're crying. All of this goes on, but it's all real. So that's what we do here, and that's what we're inviting you to join in. If you've got questions or comments, please use the chat function on the bottom of the screen. Our friend Adrian is screening that, and she'll make sure we find out about your questions. And then typically about halfway through, we'll invite a few people to join us on the yard. If we don't get to you this time, we'll get to you next time. So once again, welcome to the yard, and welcome to my co-hosts. And Tracey, it's great to have you here. So let me just start things off here. You were in prison for how long? Just so we can get an idea.
Yeah, Rich, I spent, 2 stints in prison. My first bid was in 1980 and came home in the beginning of 1983. And then my second bid, I went down in 1989 and came home in 1993.
Okay.
So those are my 2 longest stints.
So 3 and 4 years, basically. So you've done your time for sure. Who were your guys in prison? Who did you end up with hanging out? Who were you on the yard with?
Well, typically, in prison, I pretty much hung in the yard with the same way I hung out in life. I typically always ran with an older crowd. When I was 15, 16 years old, I was bartending. I was hanging out with folks 35 and 40 years old. So, I entered the prison the same way. I find, folks who have all the wisdom, the folks that I can learn from, the folks that I can pick up the nuggets from. And that's typically who I gravitate to. So yeah, it was basically the same way I ran the streets, Rich. It was the same way I ran in prison.
That's very, very interesting, because I experienced that on the other end. I was a white collar guy who had, along with my failure of ending up in prison, before that happened, I had a lot of success. And a lot of the brothers, when I say brothers, I mean just the other guys in prison, they were looking to connect with people for mentorship or connections when they got out. Did you go through that, D, on either side of that?
Well, yeah, definitely. And it's interesting you say that, because one of the things I did when I went into prison was I turned it into, the judges stated at my sentencing, think of it like going away to college. It was definitely no college I've been to. I hadn't been to college, but it definitely wasn't prison to be a college. Anyway, I turned it into a learning experience, man. It just really got my mind focus on learning as much as I could because I only had an 8th grade formal education. I'm self-taught beyond that. And I met a guy taking ACE courses, adult continuing education courses, and he was actually from Wall Street. Lo and behold, white guy, older, from Wall Street, actually teaching the class around how to write a business plan. And that's how I actually learned how to write a business plan in prison.
It's also like a lot of people go to prison. I heard it a lot when I was down that a lot of guys go, this is my my second time in, my third time in, like whatever. It's like every time I come back in, I learn something new, and then I go out and do the right thing or do the wrong thing, right? And like a lot of guys come in and say, I learned how to be a criminal in prison,
Right.
I got to imagine a lot of people gravitated to you, Seth, just because you were an NBA player and they wanted to hear about that, right?
It's the circus. I don't know about that. Yeah, for sure. But the cool thing, and I think I said this on the last episode too, is like inside you see the same people all the time, right? Yes. Maybe you get a new group every once in a while or whatever. But so when I first get to New York, like everybody goes, oh man, how tall are you and what'd you do and all this stuff and blah blah blah. We talk about all the same conversation over and over again for probably a week or two, and then after that, nobody gives a shit anymore because it's like, oh, there's Seth, there's Seven, there's this.
Yeah, they heard that story.
Yeah, we already know the story, and it's Groundhog Day again.
No, tell me, Seth. So you 7 foot. I know every time I go to prison, I was about $110, and I'm 5'11", and none of the clothes fit me. You're 7 foot. You got to explain.
Yeah, what did you wear?
Yeah, you got to explain.
I know, right?
You got to explain to me what type of khakis did they issue you in prison?
When I I did a year in county jail dealing with my case and
before prison,
yeah, that was worse, man. These weren't like clam diggers. These were like basically like shorts that came down past my knees, and it was terrible. But it's like 23-hour lockdowns, all that stuff. I had bigger fish to fry than what my pants looked like, but when and then I went to the medium from there, did some time there, and it was all right. The clothes, the khakis weren't too bad, but when I got my points down and went to a camp, they took 2 pairs of pants and sewed them together.
Exactly.
So I got like this seam right by my shin where the rest of the pants go.
Let's talk about clothes in prison. We haven't talked about that. But I mean, first of all, you wouldn't know this unless you've been through it. I went to federal prison, and when you first go in there, of course, you're nervous, you're freaked out. You don't know what to expect. You're thinking the worst, all this other kind of stuff. And what do they do to sort of indoctrinate you or to guide you in? They give you an outfit that you feel like Bozo the Clown wearing. They give you clothes, first of all, that are completely ill-fitting, like pants that are 11 inches too long, and a elephant leg could fit into them. And they give you these like orange kind of slip-on sneakers that are again, that are 6 times too big. So they're like slapping the rubber as you're walking, and you're walking through the yard, you're walking through wherever you're going, and it takes a couple of days for them to get your real clothes together because it's such a big thing for them, and it's the first time they've ever had to give someone clothes, so of course it's going to take a week for them to get the shit together. But they give you the most ridiculous outfit. But then there are people who, supposedly you're all wearing the same exact thing, but there are all kinds of people who figure out little ways to sort of tailor their style, right? Do you remember that, D? What were they wearing?
Of course, man. Like, yo, you coming in, you coming from the street, you got this swag about you, and you like you said, you trying to get your swag back in some form or some fashion. And when you first get on a pound, you don't have everything. Your property's not there. You gotta go to commissary, get what you need. So, we would always go first and foremost. You get the gray sweatsuit, the hoodie. You get the sweatshirt and the sweatpants. and you get the illest sneakers they might have, white or whatever, black, whatever they have, the colors, and you get your little style. You might throw your pant leg up over your calf or something. You get your glasses, you get your hat. You know what I mean? You get everything going. So you got your own little style, even though you look the same. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you get the shorts made. You get them cut in the shorts. You got the great pants and shorts. Like you got to be creative, man. You're innovative, man. Right?
Yeah, for your
innovation.
originality.
That's necessity.
Tracy,
Necessity is born out of innovation is born out of necessity.
For sure. Tracy, you did state time, yeah?
Yeah, I did say both. Both of my business state time.
So what's in the state? What is it? And it's East Coast, so New York. So what is it? I know they did the CDC closed all the blues out in California.
Yeah, I'm in New Jersey, so everything in New Jersey was well, when I was in there, 20-something years now, it was all khakis when we was there. But just like Devon, just like Devon said, even khakis, And once again, and this is why I love teaching entrepreneurship. We some creative people.
Yeah, for sure.
Folks in prison will take nothing and turn it into something real quick. Yeah. So this is all you're gonna get. Well, okay, let me go ahead and do with that together. Let me put a pleat in the back. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Everything,
It was so,
we can't be doing it.
I thought it was so funny that there were certain guys, like I figure, all right, I'm in prison. I got, the one thing I can say is I don't have to impress anybody. I don't have to get all dressed up. My old days working on Wall Street, it was like a fashion show, but I'm in prison. I don't have to shine my shoes, whatever. I mean, things will be clean. But there were guys there who took such pride in not just their general appearance, because everybody worked out, but their pants were creased so perfectly, and their shirt was, I just was amazed.
In the back. Triple pleats in the back.
Triple pleats in the back. Right.
Triple pleats in the back of the shirt, one like going in the front.
Yeah, it was so funny how people would, and I'd go, why are you bothering? Like, who gives a shit? Who's seeing you? But I give them credit. They had pride in their appearance.
And
especially visit time.
Oh,
visit times was the ultimate. They going to the VWAP. You going to the VWAP, boy, you gotta be dressed to the nines, as they call it, right? Dressed to the nines.
What did you say, Tracy? I missed that.
Said it takes 4 hours to get ready for a visit in jail.
Right, exactly. Yeah. You got the Muslim oil. You throwing the Muslim oil on. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. And their hair.
Saved up.
I mean, guys were so attentive to getting their hair cut just perfectly.
Yes.
And it was like, why bother? I didn't get that.
Hey Rich, you still brush it too. I mean, I still do mine like I'm still there. So
you do?
Absolutely. Nothing's changed.
I mean,
I really didn't care at all. And then there were guys, somehow or another, I guess they had, like, over the years, a lot of people had snuck in different shoes or different watches or jewelry or whatever.
They
would pass them on when they were leaving. They would pass on this contraband shoe, pair of shoes. So like 18 different people have won these shoes meanwhile, but they're different and special. They're not prison issued. So, they were. Let me ask you this. I remember when I first got to prison, a couple of guys came over to me in my housing unit, and they brought with them a pair of flip-flops, a toothbrush, some toothpaste, I think, some deodorant, whatever. And they go, here, hey, welcome here. You're going to need this because you're not going to get your commissary for a while.
Yeah.
And on the one hand, I was appreciative, but I was very suspicious. Like, 'cause I had heard about prison and you don't borrow anything from anybody and all that kind of shit. Did you go through that, Seth? Did that happen to you?
Yeah. I mean, I'm like you though too, man. It's like, what am I doing in exchange for this? The difference is I had been down for a year before I got to the big boy yard, right? Like I was in county jail, and that shit was hell. You know what I mean? It's just terrible.
Yeah,
it's just County's terrible. And so I had known kind of what to expect and who was who in the zoo and all that stuff, already, when I got there. So I was like, okay, I know how it goes. And, but yeah, it was like that.
That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you have that?
Going from the street to the yard is a tough.
Anybody try to play you, D, when you first got there?
Nah, man, I never really had any problems, man, my whole time. Like I became like a model inmate, honestly. And I was a small cat. I'll be real with you. I was a small cat. So I always made sure I was on point, and I was down to do whatever I needed to do if anybody ever came at me like that. So I really didn't speak a lot to people. So I got a reputation like, Divine don't really say shit to nobody. So no one could really like profile me and size me up because they didn't know what was liable, what it was, you know what I'm saying? And I had got knowledge of self, dealing with spirituality, dealing with Islam and the Muslim brothers and all that. And I didn't rock with that for no protection type thing. I just was all about just knowledge and information and just being sharp. Like knowledge was everything to me, like just being sharp with everything. So I stayed to myself and that's what it was, man. So I was cool throughout my whole bit, man.
Yeah. Did you connect with, you mentioned, Tracey, that you connected with some guys when you were in there, older people who maybe you could learn something from. Did you hook up with any of these or communicate with any of them when you got out of prison? Can't hear you, Tracey.
Mute, Tracey.
Did you mute yourself, Tracey?
There you go.
Oh yeah, sorry about that.
Sorry.
Yeah, so like I said, because I gravitated to a lot of older folks, there was one gentleman in Riverfront State Prison. Actually, he came from the outside, Brothers YD, who came to Riverfront, and we taught African American studies. So I got to be a son of his for about 1.5 years, right before I got ready to come home. And it was an amazing journey because I ended up running into him some 20 years later. And Brothers YD is in his late 80s now. Wow. I ended up running into him about 3 years ago in Philadelphia for a book signing. And he was just almost in tears. But, at 80-something years old, I was speaking, I believe, in Harlem within the next 2 weeks. This man actually got in his car and drove from Camden, New Jersey to Harlem to actually hear me speak. So, I didn't gravitate to a lot of folks that I gelled with, but, a lot of people that, I met, inside the prison, like Brothers YD, it's always been that same connection to those folks.
Speaking of Chris Christie, Tracey, I was in prison with Charlie Kushner. Charlie Kushner is Jared Kushner's father, who is married to Ivanka Trump, as you may know. Mm-hmm. And Charlie Kushner is a billionaire, and he was there for some crazy crime that he committed that Chris Christie prosecuted him when he was the U.S. attorney in New Jersey. And there were a couple of guys, one in particular who I was also friendly with, black guys who, knew who he was, of course, and, struck up friendships with him. And I have to say, he was a nice guy, much to his credit. When he got out and when they got out, one guy he put through college, the whole 4 years, paid for everything for him. So, I always admired people who had they were smart enough to, sort of, that's entrepreneurial to me, taking opportunities where they may be. So we got a bunch of questions here or comments that I would like to share before they get to be too many. Someone said, can you get early release from federal prison? It's not called early release. They boot your ass out. You can get 15% off, 15% off.
15% discount.
And under probation. And in my case, they put me in a halfway house in the South Bronx. And I will tell you, it was the worst part of my whole incarceration. It was
I can't even imagine you in the South Bronx.
Imagine me there. And also I did some time in Rikers. So
right.
Those were two unfortunate periods of my life where I shook my head and go, what the fuck happened to me? But I was in this rat hole, literally, in the South Bronx. And I learned after I got there that a lot of people's attitude was stay in prison, don't accept the time off, because in prison, there are professionals, you've settled in, you've already done a lot of time, just stick with it. So, all right. We were talking about pants and finding clothes that fit, and Anthony goes, then they lie to you and tell you they don't have your size when you know that they have your size. Yeah, they would much rather lie, you know, just as a matter of principle, and fuck with you, you know. Let's see. Craig, our friend, goes, in the feds, why doesn't the belt fit the pants? That's a very existential question you're asking. That's some deep shit, Craig. You're clearly a guy who spent a lot of time down, that you're thinking like that. Yeah. Why couldn't they get that together, right? Is it like you're the first person who walked in there they have to give clothes to? Let's see. Anthony, who's a friend of ours, he said he had a book bag made of state jeans. Ooh. So somebody sort of cut up their pants and made a book bag out of it.
Gucci.
Okay.
What's that?
Gucci.
Yeah, I'm sure it was Gucci. And then Anthony also goes, when we were talking about how guys would come over to you and offer you, you know, like a few things when you first walk in to sort of, you know, make you feel a little
care package.
Welcome. Yeah, care package when you're walking in. Anthony goes, I was doing that for new people coming in. They'd look at me like I was crazy. I had to tell them, I had to convince them that there were no strings attached. Yeah.
Yo, I only accepted those when they told me they were from they worked in a Christian, they worked in a church, and it was for a Christian group. I'm like, all right, yeah, let me get that.
Yeah, that you would accept, but other than that, no. And Derek says, I appreciate the convo, great insights. Thanks, Derek. We appreciate your message. So everybody say what you got to say. So Tracey, you've done a lot, and we're going to get to it, I promise you. And someone just asked about your story. You were in prison. Were you spending a lot of time when you were there, and were you talking with others about what you were going to do when you were going to get out of there? For me, that's how we spent like 90% of our time, was just scheming about the future. Was that true with you?
Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that's what most folks do, you know, whether it's positive or negative, but you know, and we have this conversation quite often, Richard. I do believe in divine. You probably agree with me. You know, 85 and 95% of the people are looking to come home and do the right thing. You know, those conversations are something positive. You know, I want to go back and get with my girl, get my baby back. You know what I mean? Typically, those are positive conversations.
How often do you think that it plays out that way, though?
Well, you know, reality smacks, you know, formerly incarcerated people in the face when they come home. You know this, Richard. You know, 50,000 collateral consequences, we face them. So, you know, when you have to face those, and I hear it all the time, you know, my office is located on Martin Luther King Boulevard in Trenton, New Jersey. Like any other Martin Luther King Boulevard across this country, we have our challenges, the same strip that I sold drugs on. So in my office for the past 14 years that I've been here, you know, I've had folks come into my office and sit on my couch and be like, Tracey, you know, I'll sweep the floor, I'll start off at minimum wage, I'll do anything. But, you know, when you can't give a person that opportunity and then 2 or 3 months later, you see them on that corner down there, I mean, you know what happened. So, yeah, a lot of folks that we used to have those conversations in the yard always was about how we're going to go home and do the right thing.
Was that, you're shaking your head, D, like you can relate, huh?
Oh, man, yeah. Like, I'll be honest with you. Like, I just wanted to, that's why I became a model inmate. I'll be real with you. I wanted to get back to the streets. I was like, yo, I got to get out of here, man. I got the 7-year bid. I got a 3-year-old son. I need to get home. I got my girl out there that I love. And, you know, she's out there doing whatever she's doing. I had to get home. So I just stay focused. You know what I'm saying? I made my way down to a camp, from a medium all the way to a camp. You know, I traveled through a few penitentiaries on holdover and all that. But, you know, I focused on the future, man. And music was my thing. I felt music was gonna be my claim to my fame.
Were you
So that's why I
planning your
focused.
career in music while you were in prison? That's what I'm trying to get at.
Absolutely. I had been afraid. I had been like I had came across stage fright. So what I used to do was when I used to write rap.
Stage fright? Where? Where was stage
Well, I
fright?
had stage fright in general, just rapping in front of people. So I used to just get over that in prison because those are the worst critics you can have.
Yeah.
Especially, you know what? I used to get the glasses,
Even if it's
the
dope,
black
it's not
dark
gonna be
glasses.
dope.
Yeah, I get the dark black glasses, so I felt like it was a barrier, and I go up there, do my thing, get crazy with it, do my thing, confident, and I rate my raps and test them just to see the response, and that's how I got over that. So when I went to the streets, I was ready to go as an artist, and I was ready to go as an executive and start my own record label. So yeah, I planned for that, man, and I set out to do that, and I met Rakim early on when I came home, one of the greatest rappers that ever lived. Today's his birthday actually, so we rocking the Rakim joint. So it's what it is, man.
So how important is it to sort of have a plan when you're coming out? What do you, Tracy? I know what you're going to say. It's important, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely important. But just like Mike Tyson said, everybody got a plan until they get hit.
Someone punches them in the head.
Every formerly incarcerated person has a plan till they come home and get hit with reality.
Yeah.
Always.
Well,
always.
I mean, I guess one's ability to take the punches will determine the outcome, right?
Absolutely.
What did you have a plan, Seth? I mean, you were a professional athlete. By the time you were in prison, your playing days were pretty much over, right?
Oh yeah, I was done 5 years earlier before I got to.
Right. So you had a very successful business in real estate, in mortgages.
Mm-hmm.
That you were involved with prior to just going away to prison.
Yep.
What was your plan when you were sitting around, or were you talking to people about it? Was there expertise to gain from others?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm still in my plan. I got a 20-year plan. I figure, okay, you go from 0 to 5 years is going to be, restructuring, rebuilding, all this.
Yeah.
10 years is this. I mean, it took a while when I was in my 20s to get things right, and I was just a dumbass tall dude. So hopefully I got a little more wisdom, when I got double the age on me. But I mean the plan is, it's a long game for sure. I mean, reentry itself is a long game. So it's Tracy, you were down and got out in '93, right? It's still. Here we are, 2021, and still talking about it. It doesn't go away.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. That's a good point right there, Seth. We still talking about like the process of transitioning and being a returning citizen, man.
Yeah.
I was where I was, and my friends were other white collar guys, who came from similar backgrounds, and we used to sit around, like after the dinner meal. We were basically allowed to go in a camp, go do what we wanted to do and hang out where we wanted to hang out.
So we would have a glass of wine, let your meal digest.
Yeah, we had wine tastings and yes. And there was an art appreciation thing going on that week. Yeah. So, but we used to hang around, and I have to say, all we did was scheme of other illegal things that we could do together now.
For real.
I mean, honestly, that's the only life we knew. And it's very, very funny. And then I'm just going to tell, to me, it's very, very funny. I met a guy there, the first guy I met, who came to me with the flip-flops to welcome me. And he was an older guy, and it was a little weird at first, but we became very good friends. And when I was in prison, we didn't have internet at the time, or people didn't have their own, contraband smartphone or anything. So whatever anybody told you about them, that's who they were, as far as you're concerned. You had no way of checking it out, really. I mean, yeah, if you really wanted to, but who cares? He told me that this was his first time ever in prison. And of course, he was innocent because, as we all know, everyone in prison is innocent.
Absolutely.
And I was the only one who said I'm guilty,
I was framed.
I go, I wasn't framed. I was guilty. And I was more guilty than they even gave me credit for. But he told me that he had never been arrested, never been in prison, never. And I got out of prison. And at that point, you could Google somebody. So I Googled him. And I discovered that he had been in prison before. He had been arrested 11 times for white collar stuff. And that, in fact, the US Senate had convened a special committee on white collar crime. And they brought him out. They said, this is the poster child for white collar crime. The guy was such a con man. He just couldn't help but lie. And given the choice, he would always lie. And
he lies. He's lying in prison, right?
Was he
He's
so funny to
there.
me.
Was he a former attorney?
He could have been on
Yeah,
it.
right.
We're in prison, for Christ's sake, you know? So that was very, very funny to me.
He didn't want you to think bad of him, Richard, that's all.
Yeah.
We got somebody here that was brought to the yard by our good friend, Craig Cecil. Craig was a guest last week, for those of you who joined us. Craig it's an amazing story, you know, and it just blew all of our minds. Craig was in the leasing of tractor trailer business, and apparently he had one client who was a big marijuana distributor. And Craig had leased some of his tractor trailers to this guy or this group of people, and they were busted with something like 1,500 pounds of pot at one point. And somehow or another, Craig got brought into it, and Craig was sentenced with a lifetime sentence. His first arrest ever, a nonviolent situation, and he got life. And about, I guess about 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, he got 1 week ago. Wow. 1 week ago, he got a phone call, which had to be very surreal, from Ivanka Trump. And Ivanka was calling, A, just to hang out because she and Craig are just that close. And B, she had news for him that her dad had just commuted his sentence. And guess what? Your lifetime sentence is over. You're done. So that's pretty amazing thing to go through. Craig brought with him tonight to the yard a friend of his, somebody who also was arrested for marijuana, somebody who received a 50-year sentence, if I'm not mistaken. I think you were a grower. And you just had your sentence commuted as well. And this is Wei Long from California, I believe. And Wei, we are really so fucking happy to see you and happy for you, and congratulations, man. And it's about time you're here with us. How you doing?
You're on mute.
You're on mute.
Yeah, there you go.
No, you're still muted, Wei. Nope. Nope.
Bottom left-hand corner of the screen.
Nope. Adrian, is this you?
Wei, you're going to see a notification asking you to unmute yourself on your screen there.
Okay. Well, I think it's fair to say that. Oh, there you go.
You got it.
Hello? No?
Yeah.
There you
Hey,
go.
Wei.
It worked?
Yeah, you're there.
Oh, shit. I'm lucky again. I tried, though, because it's 3 different guys. You know, my buddy, he's a computer guy. Somehow the computer have a glitch in it. The 3
Okay.
different laptops.
All these computers got glitches.
Like the
Finally
criminal
worked.
justice system.
Anyway.
Hey, how are you? Congratulations.
Good. How are you to
Congrats.
everybody?
Congrats.
Great. We're
That's
thrilled
it.
you're here.
Finally. After
Yeah,
about
man.
almost 25 years, 3 months short of 25 years. They finally
Wow.
figured it out. What did
Salute
he
you,
say
man.
now?
Salute you.
They tried to bury me alive, but they forgot to find the spike, you know, they left it out. So I crawled right off the grave. They don't like that, though.
Wow. Now, you were growing pot, right?
Yeah, that's what they're accusing me of.
They accused you of. Okay.
I like
Yeah,
that
I
answer.
grow a whole bunch of pot, but what it really said, I used to, you know, I'm known in the Asian community. Every time somebody got busted, guess what? Who they blame? They work for me, but they don't know who the hell I am. It's just long-haired Chinese. That's it. We've been going on for years. After a while, in like 1995, they bust a lot of farm, Asian farm. And guess what? They say they're all working for me. But I happen to live in Oakland. After they, you know, give them a good plea offer, like about 5 years or so, you know, they was threatening them with life, all this stuff. And about 8 months later, they come pick me up. That's it. They got the whole work. Maybe 40 cops and a helicopter or two to try to get me. And they didn't know it. They got like 50 right outside, something to haul low for me outside, you know. And in my greenhouse, I had like maybe a couple thousand plants. And up in Humboldt area, I got like 20,000 plants. I was going to make that super, you know, and I'm gone. But then they didn't go. They tried to charge me for everybody else's stuff except mine.
Wow.
Right.
How long were you in the United States when you got arrested?
1996. About 21 years.
You were in the United States for 21 years?
Let me think back though. I came in 95, right after the Vietnam War. So about 21 years.
Wow.
Okay. Were you amazed when the judge gave you your sentence? Did you have any expectation it would be 50 years?
Yeah, they threatened me with a life sentence.
Damn.
What is weird is, you know, when they convicted me, I was in Lompoc. About a couple of months later, you know, the fixer lawyer come in and say, okay, we got you a deal, 2-year time sentence. I say, fuck off, because I didn't do nothing. I was free. It took this long for me to get out. Everything they used against me, I can prove it never happened. What it did is that the way they told me in jail is that they waited a lot of farm, you know. Basically, they say in the one of the farm, they found a firearm. Guess what? It just happened to have a receipt with my page and number on it. But, you know, but my page is not activated yet.
So you didn't take the plea. You decided to go to trial, right?
They never offered me no plea trial.
They didn't.
Only after trial, after I got 50 years, they offered, you know, time served.
Holy shit. That's amazing. We had on a few weeks ago a guy who I used to actually be friends with a long time ago. And he was arrested for some white collar thing. And they offered him 7 years. And he said no. He went to trial and they gave him 85 years when he lost. Mm-hmm. So this is fucked up. And you know, you just can't take a case to trial. You know, if you do, you're jeopardizing everyything. You just can't do it.
Did you ever get taught to guys that were like, oh, the way we do this is we just take everything to trial, and if everybody does that, then the system has to change and all that. And I'm like, that's cool. Guys. You go first. Like, nah,
tell me how you make
it sounds
out.
logical. It sounds for real. Makes sense.
Wow.
You real.
Did you ever consider, Tracey, fighting it out? I don't know what it's like in your state, New Jersey. But did you cop the plea, right?
Oh yeah, I was guilty as a motherfucker.
Yeah. Okay.
I can tell you right now, I wasn't innocent. So yeah, no. Every time I went down, I was guilty, and I copped the plea every time I went down. You know, they tell they say okay, if you're guilty, you don't want to go in there and piss the prosecutors off.
Right.
So I was stone cold guilty. So yeah, my whole thing, the last time I went down, Richard, was in when I went down in '89. I got locked up in Elizabeth County Jail, which is it's the dungeons. I mean,
Elizabeth, I heard about Elizabeth, yo.
Man, divine. God, listen, terrible, man. So I was calling my parole officer every single day, telling him to please violate me and send me back down. Calling my attorney, listen. I'll cop out. I don't need to get back out. I just need to get back down to prison though, because I mean, county jail wasn't working. But nah, Rich, I was guilty, man.
I had the same attitude. People, I'm sure a lot of people here know, but in the general public, they sort of use prison and jail synonymously. They think it's the same thing interchangeably, but it's not at all.
Oh, no.
You know,
Nah.
jails are state or county or city, you know, typically shorter terms, lots of turnover, and generally speaking, it's not very professionally run. It's disgusting, you know, violent. I spent time in a jail, one of the worst, Rikers Island, you know, where nobody belongs. And, you know, actually going into a prison is something you look forward to. It's, you were down for a year in a jail, right? A county jail, Seth. You were looking forward to going to prison, right?
I wasn't, because I didn't know what the hell prison was, and I was scared shitless. I mean, I was.
You gotta have a taste of it first, Rich.
Yeah. I didn't know what it was.
You gotta know
It's not something you wished for as a kid.
I wasn't calling my parole officer. I knew where I was going. So
for sure. No, once I got to big boy prison, I would have like definitely been like, oh, I should have been here sooner. The first day I got into my unit, I talked to my bunkie, and I was like, you know, we're you know, you get out an hour or 2 hours a week in county jail, right? And I did that for a year, you know. So I was like, all right, so I get here and, you know, I get settled, put my bedroll down and all that. And I go, all right, so when can you go out? What days can you go outside, you know, here? And they look at me like, what? Like, you just came from county, huh? Like you can be out, you know, from 6 a.m. at open move to come back for count until 10 o'clock at night. I was like, oh shit, like you'll never see me in the room.
Recall.
That's the case.
Recall.
Yeah.
So wait, when you got the commutation, somebody picked you up, or, you know, what was the first thing you did? Is what I want to know.
Oh, all they do is we are locked down on the quarantine. One of the case manager, you know, they go, bok, bok, bok. I told my cellie, goodbye, sucker, I'm gone. I'll take care of you when I get out. You know, then they got another case manager come in, you know, ask where I'm going. I was, the case is out of Fresno, California. I don't want to go there. I want to go to Oakland where they pick me up. I live there more than in Oakland. I got, you know, different spots, like all the criminal, you know, you hang out different city. The movie the season, and guess what? They would have to get a phone call to contact her. You know, all I need is this address. I can go anywhere in the U.S. They'll ship me. I got lucky on that because they just kicked me out the door. You know, they cannot keep me no more. I just say, hey, I got no address in Fresno.
So where did you end up going?
My brother in the Seattle area, and I thought, you know, they told my brother, oh, they're gonna let him know, you know, when I'm gonna land. They didn't do it. I landed in the, you know, airport. I look around. They say, "What the hell?" Exactly as Spanish. So I look for, you know, people that look like me. You know, the hippie or stoner or musician, whatever. I asked a couple of people for a phone call. None of them turned me down. And you know, they give me like, let me see, $5 for food.
Oh man.
$10 for the bus. I say, what the hell? You know, no, they ship me on the jet plane though back to Seattle. You know, the guy that give me the phone call, I just say, yeah, for souvenir. They say, I don't want money. They say, I don't want those money souvenir. You know, I just got out of jail. They say, what the hell? But you look at me, you know, like all skinny and pale. Up there about maybe 10 months in there. And we just stuck in there for a long time. Quick, no.
So you are now at your brother's in Seattle?
Yeah, I met my brother. That's my spot right here. That's why I'm sleeping.
It looks a lot nicer than a prison cell, from what I can tell.
But what is weird though, I cannot sleep.
Why?
You see me over there, I guess my whole family don't sleep much, 2-3 hours each day. That's it.
Huh. Really? What was the first thing you did when you got to your brother's?
First thing, just hug him, you know, the family, that's it.
Okay.
And they got so much food around this area, you know, but it just can't eat, you know. Too happy. Yeah. I guess it finally sinks in today.
It finally sank in today that you're free?
Finally, so I'm going to start going outside, walk around the woods and stuff.
Good.
Yeah.
Are you still on probation way, or is it is everything done?
No, they give me 5 years. They wouldn't even let me drink one beer.
Wow.
They warned me, don't go near marijuana. I like to go to the Seattle Ham Fest, though.
Don't,
No,
that's,
it's not worth it.
that kind of thinking could get you in trouble again.
No, I stay out of trouble though. I'm gonna find a real good, I'm in a scuba gear with me, small self-contained one. That'll be all right.
Yeah.
Have you ever used,
Welcome home, man.
have you ever used like a mobile phone or a laptop before?
No. Before we come in, they got this what the hell they call it, a pager. And I got one, the phone never turned on. Every time somebody call me, I go somewhere else. Don't let nobody see me use them.
Right.
Usually the restroom, in the club.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we're so beyond happy for you, man. We're really
Yeah, congrats.
so
man.
Yeah,
great.
welcome home, bro.
Yeah, welcome
Yep.
home.
He made it.
Yeah.
And that's the new we signed. I learned the W.
Oh, way. Okay.
The people. I learned that yesterday
That's great. That's
Nice.
great.
from the Wheat Show, Wheat Wednesday.
So,
Yeah.
so Tracey, you have been busy since you've been out, and you've done all kinds of amazing things. Could you give us an overview of what you're up to now and what's important to you now?
Oh, wow. Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, Richard. So I spent the past 16 months as one of 24 member diversity, equity, and inclusion task force member for the largest cannabis trade federation, cannabis federation in the country. So I spent my past 16 months helping with them with their policies that all the major players who are on their board that they will adopt. So they adopted those policies back in October. So had the great opportunity of making sure that we hold the cannabis industry accountable, to make sure that people like Wei Long and those that are harmed by the war on drugs have a fair, equitable chance to participate in this industry. So I've been doing that on a national level. So here in New Jersey, as you know, we just approved our legislature the voters just approved it in November here in New Jersey to legalize cannabis. So working here more locally, I just actually interviewed 3 weeks ago for one of the commissioner spots. As you mentioned earlier, I have a pardon from the governor, so I can pretty much run for office, do anything I want to do. So I interviewed for the Cannabis Commission, Regulatory Commission last month. So we're looking for a seat on the board, man. Listen, my partners at Just Leadership and Glenn Martin always says, those closer to the problem, Divine, you know this, those closer to the problem are closer to the solutions, but further for the resources and power. So people like Wei Long, people like Divine, people like you, Richard, we have to be in these spaces. This is where we have to be at the table. For them to have a 24-member task force, me to be the only formerly incarcerated person on that task force is a problem within itself. But the fact of the matter is that when we are at the table, we make sure that our voice is heard. So that's what I've been doing for the past couple of years. And as you know, the entrepreneurship piece, we talked about it earlier. I do believe we are some of the most creative, innovative people in the country. I know one of the things, the most volatile things, Richard, that you can be thrown into is prison. But I found out in business, hell, going through the 2008 market crash was very volatile. So what I've learned is that people that go to prison, we keep our head on the swivel. So we know how to move in volatile situations.
That we do.
I've learned how to survive in business for 25 years because I learned how to survive in prison, and I learned how to survive dealing with drug addicts, crack addicts, and heroin addicts for 17 years. So we teach entrepreneurship now. I know how I can go from zero to $1 million business just off my pure hustle of street knowledge of what I know. And Richard, you know this. Some of the most crookedest crooks I ever met, I've met in the boardroom, in the boardroom, and not on the block.
That is so true. By the way, we're good
Dirty
friends.
bastards.
I'm sure, dirty rats.
We're good friends with Glenn Martin as well. And
Yeah, he's been on the show.
Elizabeth is in our audience, used to work with Glenn at the Fortune Society. So Glenn it's a small space that we're in for sure. I will tell you, because I had a bird's eye view of corporate America, and the only difference between, the people on the street who are, you know, up to no good, and them is that they're just, is the number of zeros, is that they're just the level that they're doing it on.
Mm.
And what I saw, you know, like everybody likes to think of morality as being this black and white thing. You're a good person or you're a bad person. If you're in prison, by extension, you're a monster. You know, it's us versus them. I was in prison with, you know, guys who were guilty of drunk driving, for example, where they got behind the wheel, they were drunk, and they ended up killing somebody, and they sent them away. And I was in prison with other guys who cheated on their, well, Seth had a tax issue. I don't mean to make it too personal with you, Seth, but they got in trouble with their taxes. I don't know a single business person who doesn't routinely, for example, take personal trips and dinners that are with his family or his girlfriend or whatever, and ends up writing that off on their tax return as a business expense. And it's fine for them, but once in a while, somebody gets caught. And all of a sudden, this respectable, respectful person, you know, a pillar of society at the, you know, at the Chamber of Commerce in Princeton, where you were honored, Tracey, all of a sudden now they're in prison, or they got behind the wheel because they had another glass of wine at a cocktail party and things just went south. You know, it happens, you know, and that's to say nothing of people like you, Wei, who, you know, I don't even understand what happened to you, or young kids who, you know, do a stupid thing like young kids do. And the only difference is they didn't have a rich daddy who could get them a lawyer who could get them out of it. And they ended up then in the system and inexorably sucked in, you know, so, you know, it's amazing. But you have an organization also, don't you, Tracey?
Yeah, well, you know, as a serial entrepreneurs, we have a couple of organizations.
Tell us about them.
Oh, yeah. So we have Reentry Ventures, which is my partnership with CJ Meaning. That's a partnership between From the Block to the Boardroom and Open for Business Ventures. We teach entrepreneurship. We did 1,000 inmates at the Bureau of Prison in Washington, D.C. using tablets. We just started our last cohort 2 months, graduated 16 individuals. We're going to start another one February the 21st here in New Jersey, in partnership with the African American Chamber of Commerce and Wells Fargo. We believe the Black chambers here in New Jersey and chambers across the country should all be supporting businesses in urban communities and underserved communities. So partner with people like the chamber to bring the power of entrepreneurship where it's not costing individuals a dime, to learn how to start and run a successful business. Doing that along with the, you know, Fax Marketing Group. We have a marketing company. We're going to release one of our real estate classes on January 3rd. As you know, I've been a 25-year real estate developer also and contractor. So I've amassed millions of dollars in real estate. I teach people how to start and get into the real estate game where wealth is being created all the time. So those are the things that we're doing now. And I really believe after my 27 years now of being an entrepreneur, and when you add in my 17 years from the street, because Rich, I was still an entrepreneur in the street.
Different hustle.
I was just in the pharmaceutical business, but I've been in business now for 40-something years out of my 58 years. So this is what I do. I believe now that I've been blessed with the ability to teach people what I've learned and what I know, especially coming from someone that's been in that seat. So we actually just signed a contract. A couple of months, we start our program here with all the juveniles in the state of New Jersey, teaching our From the Block to the Boardroom course, where they will have the opportunity to learn how to start and run a business. So I'm very proud of that because I did 20 years with the Mind in Our Business program, and that was a nationally recognized program that taught 6th and 7th graders how to start and run a business. So doing that for 20-something years, then saying, you know what, I know another population that gets it, another population that is not afraid of taking risks, and that be the folks that are behind bars and folks that are coming home. So
let me ask you a question. So let me ask you a question. It's been quite an evolution for you. It sounds like it was almost inevitable that you would end up doing what you're doing and with the success that you're having. You're obviously a very smart guy, and you're entrepreneurial. And what would you be telling if you were you, except you were now 16, 17 years old and you showed up at your program, and this is a very young version of yourself, knowing what you know now, what would you be telling to that 17-year-old version of you?
Oh, wow. Plain and simple. You don't have to run into that brick wall. I can tell you I already did, and it's going to hurt. I've taught this and told this to my son who basically grew up in the same household, who ended up going to prison for 7 years himself, even after I came home from prison. So I would tell my younger self, you don't have to do this. You are born entrepreneur. This is the reason why you're out here selling these drugs, because you're an entrepreneur. I can teach you the skills to transform your hustle into a legitimate hustle where you can go out and take a loss, and guess what? Wake up the next morning and still have your freedom.
And someone's not going to shoot you along the way.
Oh, absolutely.
And hold on to your money. That was my issue.
Oh, yeah.
Part of what I want to say is the trick is not making the money, it's keeping it. What would you say, D? You were involved in the pharmaceutical trade, as Tracey puts it, when you were in your teens. If you met you back then, what would you, knowing what you know now, what would you say?
It definitely, believe in your capabilities and ability to rise above your circumstances and situation, especially when it's bleak, coming from, impoverished background and, poverty, man. Just, believe in yourself, and you have the ability to do it, and you can do it. It's just, seek out mentorship, seek out positive role models, and stay focused, man. Everything I learned from, legitimate entrepreneurship, all those things they teach you: fail fast, fail forward, break things as you move, and figure it out along the way, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Seth, did you learn anything along the way that you would tell your younger self?
Yeah, I would look my younger self directly in the eye and go, "You're wrong." Just know, and it's okay to be wrong, but like don't just stick to what you think because you don't know it all. I really didn't learn shit until I was 40, I think, and I'm still learning. I feel like I'm a 5-year-old right now, learning new stuff. So, but I thought I knew it all, in my 20s, and you couldn't tell me shit. So,
don't we all?
Yeah.
Wow. I think we all seem to come around. I don't know what it is about the 30s though. I didn't change to get my life together until I was 33. My son, he didn't do it until he was 35. So I don't know what it is. I think we kind of grow up, once we get out of the 20s, we begin to grow up. But, I don't know what it is about that range between 30 and 40 folks.
Most people are not aware. Most employers are not aware that people typically will age out of crime. There are certain crimes that are never committed by people who are 40 years old. Burglary. It just almost never happens.
Yeah.
It happens. Murder almost never happens with people of a certain age. They grow up, they value their freedom. They have some wisdom. They have responsibilities, families, whatever. And, so to keep somebody incarcerated when they're 60 or 70 years old, is, after they've been in prison for 20 years already, whatever punishment you want to mete out, you've done a good job of that already. What are you afraid of? In fact, the coronavirus saw lots of people released conditionally during it, and there was no incidence of increased crime or problems that came as a result of it. Right? I'm looking in our audience at Craig, who was released on compassionate release. And, so many people could be let out like that. It would save government, society, hundreds of billions of dollars. It would reunite families. It poses really no risk at all. And it's just one of those things that's just beyond explanation. Wei, we're talking about what we've learned about maybe mistakes we've made or the way we've looked at it and the wisdom we gained. And you were down for a long time. If you saw yourself at 15 or 20 years old, what would you tell yourself?
It's a tough one. But when I'm 20, I say, man, work for the Fed. You
What's
get
that?
do nothing.
Do nothing?
Yeah, do nothing. That's what the Fed they do. Pay you, decent money, good benefit,
Work
but
for the feds. Yeah.
don't have to do nothing. Just scratch your ass all day.
Oh, you said work for the feds?
Yeah.
You mean at a
Get a
prison?
job, Hey, they actually hired me when I was a kid in the mid-'80s.
Yeah.
They hired me, in a two-and-die job. I go apply. They whole bunch of people apply for it. I went to 3 interviews. They hired me and never showed up. Just to
Nice.
mess with them.
All right. So you were going to get in trouble no matter what, sooner or later, it sounds like.
Sooner or later.
All right. So I don't want to mention her name because maybe it'd be a little embarrassing, but I just think I should share this. Wei, one of our listeners in the room with us, she said that you look like a tender-hearted man. Tender-hearted, which is a nice thing.
That's what I am. I help out anybody. You see me, I cannot turn nobody away. That's one of my weakness. I'm
sure that's true. She said there's an innocence that will do great things with all of our support.
Mm-hmm.
Tracey, on the other hand, Tracey, you have a compassionate intelligence whose support coming from you will also do great things and be a good connection within this group. So I can totally concur with both of those assessments of both of you. And, it's a total pleasure to have the opportunity to have you on here and to hear your stories. And we just hope you'll stay a friend of ours in the yard and come back and hang out with us and help us grow this community. On Commissary Club, we started it. We already, we're doing a lot of work, obviously, in reentry. We help thousands of people get jobs. That's our calling in life. We're proud of it. And so much more of it needs to be done by people who have a commitment like you do, Tracey, in the work that you do, certainly. We believe that we want to build a place, a site, a destination that folks with records can come together and for the first time have an opportunity to connect and bridge that connection gap. People with records are not available to each other to help each other out, to hook each other up, to serve as role models and encouragement and even inspiration. We're let out on supervised release, parole, probation, and one of the terms of our release is that we may not talk to other people with a record. So imagine you're coming out of prison after 20 years, you have no money, you have no home, you have no job, you have $5 in your pocket that they just gave you. And, by the way, you better get a job right away and you better get a home or else we're going to send your ass back to prison. But here's the trick. You're not allowed to talk to anybody who has a record. Well, who the fuck are you supposed to talk to? And who do you even know at that point to talk to? Who's going to hook you up? Who's going to set you straight? Who's going to point you in the right direction of where they will accept you? What housing, location will accept you with a record? Which employer will hire somebody with a record like yours? How do I use a mobile phone? How do I use a laptop? Because I need that to find a job. And the answer is none of that's available. We think that's bullshit. And, my feeling is, and I speaking for Divine and Seth and the rest of our team, the time is long past that folks with records should be walking around as second-class citizens. We did our time. What the fuck more else do you want from us? We did our time. We paid the price. We did 50 years or 20 years or whatever the ridiculous sentence was for selling pot. It kills me. I live in Los Angeles and I walk through the streets of Los Angeles and around Beverly Hills, and they have these marijuana dispensaries that look like you're walking into Neiman Marcus. They're beautiful. And yet there are people like our friend Craig who and Way, who are not only have an arrest, but were down for decades with lifetime sentences for doing something that is now considered completely acceptable. It's a gruesome irony. We think the time is done. That's what we think. And we think that there are 70 million of us. We could elect any president we wanted with 70 million people. There's 1 in 3 adults have a record. 1 in 3. It's a staggeringly large population. The time has come, enough is enough. And it starts with us coming together and speaking with one voice, like women did through the women's movement and African Americans did through the civil rights movement and LGBTQ communities did. They came together and spoke loudly with one voice. Enough is enough, and it starts today. And in my opinion, I don't think anybody thinks it's fair that some kid who gets arrested at 17 for doing something stupid and does his or her time and comes out for the rest of their life, there should be this stigma and this marginalization and a deprivation of opportunity so that they can't get a job, they can't pay their taxes, they can't take care of their kids. I don't think anybody thinks that's fair. And the only way it's going to change is if we come together. Individually, we're weak, but together, we're way strong. We have huge buying power. We have huge political power. And if we can't look after each other and help each other out, then it ain't going to happen. So that's what we're trying to do at Commissary Club. And I invite everybody to please join us and be part of that community and help us lead that community, because truly enough is enough. So I'm getting off my soapbox now. Seth, anything you want to add in passing?
No, that was great. I think, you mentioned the only way to succeed in, we've been talking a lot about business tonight, right, Tracey? And there's a clear path in business success. You've seen it, you've done it, you go, okay, rinse, wash, repeat, right? Do it over and over again. It's got little nuances here and there, but reentry is no different, right? There's a clear path to give yourself the best chance of not being the, one of the 3 out of 4 people that goes back to prison and recidivates, right? So, but the problem is you can't talk to the people or get the gems from the people that have already done it, right? So that's a problem. It's commonly done in business and it's known in business, but in reentry it isn't. So that's why I'm excited about what we're building with Commissary Club. Thanks for being on tonight, Tracey. It's been great. Just hearing your success and talking about teaching 1,000 inmates inside about entrepreneurship and guiding that path. It's we talked about, you mentioned earlier about having your head on a swivel, and people that have been down definitely have that. And that's one of the, I think that and resilience is the thing that that is most needed in entrepreneurialism and just building businesses big and small. And everybody that I know that's got a record definitely exemplifies that. So thanks for bringing that up. Thanks, Benny.
D, a final thought?
Yeah, I concur, Richard. That was great. You hit everything on the head. I totally agree with you. Double down, triple down on that. Tracey, thanks for joining us tonight on Commissary Club's The Yard. For me, entrepreneurship is a new street hustle, and it's all about going from incarceration to innovation. And we support you. Please continue to support us. Great to have you, and we love what you're doing. Time's been way too long. No pun intended. But take one day at a time. Welcome to Commissary Club. Welcome to The Yard. We look forward to having you again.
Welcome home.
And thanks to the audience for joining us. And please stay tuned, spread the word, let people know what we're doing, man. We're doing great work, all of us.
Way, do you want to say anything? One last comment before we go?
Thank you everybody for inviting me. And I'd like to take this moment to thank everybody that got a hand in my freedom. It's too many to thank personally right now, I still got a long list, to get to.
Well,
other than that, peace, brothers and sisters.
Peace to you, brother.
You, behind the wall.
Peace, brother.
Enjoy being free. Trace, you want to share a thought before we head out of here?
Well, you said it all, Richard. I mean, you said it all. We're 70 million strong in this country. We have a lot of power all across this country. Formerly incarcerated people are getting their voting rights restored. We are beginning to build that political power. So I think there's no better time now, Richard, than for us to come together and begin to provide that platform and that outlet for formerly impacted people, so that we can all stand together. And yes, we can deliver a mighty blow. We can deliver a mighty blow, and we can get things done if we do it all together. We've been able to get a lot of things done here in New Jersey, and it doesn't matter who's in office. I'm an independent. I've been an independent since 2001. I don't care who is in office. But there's a saying that says, no permanent friends, no permanent enemies, just permanent interests. This is what it's all about. We have to be in the best interest of formerly incarcerated people and what we can get. We deserve it. We've done our time. So thanks, Rich. Thanks for having me on. Divine, thank you, man. You are definitely an inspiration. Thank you, Seth. Thank you. And Craig and Wei Long, welcome home, brothers. Yeah. Welcome home.
Yeah.
Craig.
Finally.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Finally is right.
Just now.
So everybody, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And we'll be back again next week. We have some great guests already lined up. So please make sure you come back. If you need to get in touch with me, for example, my email is richard@commissary.club. I'd love to hear from you. What we've experimenting doing, I should say, is we leave the room open. We're going to end it now, but there are people here who might like to, chat or share thoughts or hang out or say hello. Please feel free to do it for as long as you would like. Or of course, I'll say goodnight. But once again, let's look after each other. Let's really start there. If we can do that, we can help each other a hell of a lot. So thanks a lot for coming. We'll see you next week. Have a good night, everybody.
See y'all.
Peace.